Before you start this video, please make sure you have Polynomial PDF A open so that you can take notes while we're doing this. Prior to this lesson, you should have studied quickly or in the last video what a monomial is and what a polynomial is. A monomial, if you remember the term mano y mano, means one-on-one. So a monomial is simply one single term. So for example, 4 is a monomial. A is a monomial, and 4a is also a monomial, but so is something like 4xy squared, as long as there's no addition sign or subtraction sign or anything separating the monomial. So a polynomial means more than one term. So for example, 4 plus x is a polynomial. We could also have something like 4x squared y minus 3x plus 6. So that is a polynomial. More specific that we studied a little bit, that is a trinomial, meaning that it has 1, 2, 3 terms. Is really from prior, what you went over. So this is a polynomial when it's written in standard form. The coefficient of the first term is called the leading coefficient. All right. And the exponent, so for example, in this one, okay, so if we go to the example here, if it's in standard form, 2 is the leading coefficient. In this one, 4 is the leading coefficient. The exponent in the problem of the first term, once it's in standard form, is the degree of the polynomial. So we know in this example, the degree is a 2. In this one, the degree is 3, and that's showing you over here. And then in the last one, the degree is 4, because that is the exponent. And then your degrees go by what type they are. So if a term has no variable, that's a constant, meaning simply a number. So for example, this is a constant. And then you have a linear, meaning raised to the 1 power. So this really has a 1. You have quadratic raised to the 2, cubic raised to the 3rd degree, and quartic raised to the 4th. All right. And then what today's lesson, okay, so sorry, this one does say you should be able to do this from a prior lesson. Put them in standard form, state the degree, type, and leading coefficient. Hopefully you pause the video at this point. And we know that we're going to put it in standard form, which means our highest exponent goes first, then the 2x to the second, then the minus 1. Our leading coefficient is the degree of the polynomial is what is its highest exponent. So our degree is 3. And if it is a 3 and you go back to your chart, you should realize that if it's 3 degree, that is what we call a cubic function. And it is a cubic function. Okay, please try the next one. It also looks like we have some combining of terms. It looks like we have 2x squareds in the problem, and that we have also a x, which is a linear term, and a 4x. So we need to combine them first before putting them in standard form. So then I would get my highest term is -3 plus 1. So -3 plus 1 is -2x to the second power. That takes them away. And then I have 1x and 4x is 5x. That takes them away. And then I have my constants, which are 8 minus 2, which is 6. My leading coefficient is the number in front. You only take the number, you don't take the exponent or the x, the variable. My degree is what the highest exponent is, 2, and if I go back to the chart, a degree of 2 is quadratic, which is kind of funny because I know quad normally means 4, but in the graphing world, quadratic has a degree of 2. Lesson today is actually adding or subtracting polynomials. If the term, this has 4 terms in it, this has 4 terms in it, you can add any terms to any term. So it could be a binomial and a trinomial. After kind of trinomial, we really don't have a name for it, so we just call it polynomials, meaning many. If I'm on a computer, I love highlighting. If I find anything with a 3 in it, I highlight it one color. If I find anything now, one thing I want you to notice is I'm taking the signs that are in front of them. So I'm taking the negative here and the positive there, and then my constants. And literally all we're doing is, you could use a calculator or you are following whatever numbers they are. So 2, this is a plus sign, and so it's 1. So 2 plus 1 is 3, and we don't change their degree. We're just saying if you had a 2x squared and a 2x cubed and a 1x cubed, you now have 3x cubed. You don't change the cubes. They don't get bigger, so it stays there. If I have a 4 and a -6, this is where you got to make sure you're up to par on your negative numbers. So that's -2, and that's to the second power. And then I have a -1 and a 5. So make sure you are good at your negatives, and that's 4x, and I have 9 minus 1, which is 8. If you start with the largest, then you end up in standard form. So I know that my degree is a 3. I know it's a cubic function, and my leading coefficient is 3. It is the number out in front of the largest degree monomial. So when you put them in terms, it is the number out in front. So adding cannot get much easier than that. Please try the next one on your own, okay? Give those a shot. Or you take a second, pause the video, and try them by yourself, please. When I look at this one and I highlight, this is my highest degree, but that is the only one in the problem. So I get x to the third because I'm not adding it to anything else. Whereas when I come to the seconds, I now have at least 2 of them, and I can have more than 2. I could have 3, I could have 4. So now I do minus 3x squared, and then I have a negative and a positive is minus x, and then 5 minus 5 is 0. So that is my final answer. And on the next one, 8 plus 1 is 9, and 3 plus a -2 is 1x squared. You could put a 1 there. I did not. And then I have negative, so it's -1 plus 5 is 4x. And then my only constant in the problem is a 4. Okay? And now we have subtraction. Subtraction, the only problem is you're taking a group minus another group, which means this minus sign right here is important. It is not just minus this number. This is a group. So when I do a subtraction problem, I do rewrite the entire thing. So what happens is I copy that down. That doesn't change. But because it is minus a group, everything in that group has to get distributed. So it's minus 3x, and minus a minus actually becomes positive, and minus a minus is positive, and minus a negative, when I distribute that, it becomes minus 8. At that point, we're at combining like terms or adding the polynomial now that we changed the sign. So please pause the video and fix this up. Let's see what you get. And that would be our final. Again, it has more than 4 terms. It's not, if it had 3 terms, it would be a trinomial. If it had 2 terms, it would be a binomial. But this has 4 terms, therefore, that is your final answer. And if you would, try, I think, try these 2 together, and we'll do the last one together. So go ahead and please get those answers. Pause the video. I am just going to write the answers for the practice. So pause, and then the answers are going to show up. I'm a math teacher, and I cannot describe to you about rewriting it because that negative in front goes to everything. So every sign has to change. Negative, positive, negative, positive. Then you combine your like terms. Negative 3x squared, 5x, negative 3x to the cube, 5x squared, 2x plus 12. Try B. On this one, you have an x cubed here and an x cubed here, but then you only have an x squared in the second one. So please remember, a negative minus a negative actually results in a positive value. So watch that. Hopefully you pick the right answer. Okay. And our last one, very easy. Before you start, order of operation tells us that there's something outside the parenthesis. So again, anything outside needs to be distributed. If it is a value, it is only increasing the coefficients. So I'm not changing, there's no variable changing. Here, this times this is just going to increase the x squared. 2 times 3 is 6x and minus 14. Once you have it written out, combine your like terms. Negative and positive makes 2x, and 20 minus is 6. All right, awesome. Thanks for following along. Bye.